Right now, your life is being managed by a set of rules you didn't agree to, and because you don't see them, you are losing. You've been told that if you're just nice enough, hardworking enough, and honest enough, the world will eventually reward you with the respect and the status you deserve. But in the cold, ruthless theater of human nature, your honesty is actually a target, and your predictability is a leash. Machiavelli knew that the most dangerous man in any room isn't the one with the loudest voice. It's the one who understands the hidden gears of power. He understood that while the 99% of men are playing a game of morality, the sovereign is playing a game of reality. You are currently losing a cold war you didn't even know you were fighting, because you are playing by the rules of the servant while your enemies are playing by the rules of the king. This video is a psychological intervention. I'm going to reveal the 7 Machiavellian laws that are secretly controlling your life right now, and how to turn your internal ice into a weapon to reclaim your shared glory. Watch closely, because from this moment on, the nice guy is being executed. The sovereign is taking command. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle shift in a conversation where you feel like you're being vetted or managed. You see a colleague take credit for your idea at the office, or a friend make a backhanded comment at a cafe in DHA that leaves you questioning your own value. You feel the heat of anger rising in your chest, and you want to react. You want to defend yourself. But the moment you react, you lose. Machiavelli lived in an era of shifting sands, where today's dinner guest was tomorrow's assassin. He saw that the 99% of men stay average because they are reactive units. They allow their emotions to be triggered by social stimulus, making them as easy to read as a children's book. But the sovereign knows that his mind is an industrial engine that must be protected at all costs. I saw a comment from a user named Omar, shout out to the Karachi crew, who perfectly captures this feeling. He wrote, "I used to be the guy who would snap back whenever someone challenged me. I thought I was being alpha by standing up for myself, but I realized I was just being a puppet. My manager knew exactly how to trigger my anger to make me look unprofessional during meetings. After studying these laws, I stopped reacting. My silence became a hammer." Omar realized that your power is located in the space between the stimulus and your response. This brings us to the first law. The appearance of virtue is more powerful than virtue itself. Most men stay average because they actually try to be good. They want to be seen as loyal, kind, and transparent. But Machiavelli knew that in the world of power, total transparency is a death sentence. To outplay your enemies, you must master the sovereign mask. You must appear to have the qualities the world admires: mercy, faith, integrity. But you must possess the internal ice to be the exact opposite when the mission requires it. Machiavelli saw that the world is full of utility men who are blinded by their own morality. He wrote in The Prince, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are." Think about the nice guy habit of oversharing. You tell everyone your fears, your bank balance, and your next moves because you want to bond. You think you're building trust, but you're actually providing the blueprints to your own destruction. The sovereign knows that information is the ultimate currency. By maintaining the appearance of being an open book while keeping the vault of your real intentions locked, you create a strategic mystery. This mystery is your fortress. When people don't know what you're thinking, they cannot calculate your moves. They cannot set snares for you. You become a black box in their reality. I saw another comment from Faisal that hits the heart of this. I realized that the reason I was losing the mental game was because I was too eager to be liked. I was treating every conversation like a job interview for a role I didn't even want. The moment I started using selective honesty and kept my real goals to myself, people started treating me with a weird kind of reverence. They started auditioning for me. Faisal is learning that the person who speaks the least is the one who hears and controls the most. The second law is strategic unpredictability. Most men are as predictable as the tide. You know exactly what they'll say when they're insulted, and you know exactly how they'll act when they're praised. This makes them manageable. But the sovereign is a moving target. To outplay your enemies mentally, you must occasionally act against your established character. If you're known for being too kind, You must occasionally demonstrate a cold, surgical no. If you're known for being loud, you must master the internal ice of silence. Machiavelli knew that the foundation of any mental victory is the control of perception. If you are perpetually confusing your enemies by shifting your aura, they will hesitate. And in that hesitation, you find your opening. Machiavelli observed that the 99% stay average because they are cowards of the soul. They are afraid of the social vacuum that follows an unpredictable move. They would rather be likable and predictable than formidable. But you are realizing that your aura is a gift you give yourself through industrial training. You are training your nervous system to handle the vibration of the unknown. You are becoming the still point around which the social world must now revolve. Think about your current internal audit. Who in your life thinks they have you figured out? Is it a toxic relative? A jealous rival? A friend who secretly wants you to stay at their level? These people have a mental map of you. As long as you follow that map, they own you. But the moment you take a sovereign pivot, the moment you do something that doesn't fit their image of you, you tear up the map. You force them into a state of induced paranoia. They start to wonder what else you're hiding. They start to wonder if they've underestimated you. This is the moment the power dynamic shifts. You're no longer the participant in their game. You're the director of the play. One of you wrote, "I spent my whole life trying to be the reliable one. My family and friends used me as a utility man for their drama and their favors. The moment I used strategic unpredictability and simply didn't show up to a crisis that wasn't mine, the whole dynamic changed. They were shocked, then they were angry, but eventually they started to respect my time. I realized that my reliability was just another word for my submission." This user has found the Machiavellian lever. We're going to talk about the law of the mirror, how to use your enemy's own ego to lead them into a dead end, and how to master the art of the strategic retreat to make your eventual victory look like an act of fate. The servant is still trying to win the argument, but the ruler is already building the empire. You've mastered the mask, and you've broken the cycle of predictability. You've stopped being a reactive unit and started becoming a strategic auditor. Now, we move into the active psychological terrain where the fox and the lion merge. We're going to discuss the third law, the law of the mirror. Most men stay average because they try to impose their own reality onto others. They walk into a room and try to convince everyone how smart or capable they are. But Machiavelli knew that the most effective way to dominate an enemy is to reflect them back to themselves. When you mirror an enemy's behavior, their pace, and their vibration, you do something devastating. You disable their defenses. You make them feel safe because they see a version of themselves in you. And as Machiavelli observed in the courts of the Renaissance, the moment a man feels safe is the moment he stops being strategic. He stops looking for the trap, and that is exactly when you spring it. Machiavelli lived in a world where the most dangerous enemies were those who could mimic your loyalty while plotting your downfall. He saw that the 99% of men are self-obsessed. They are so busy looking for their own reflection in others that they miss the industrial training happening right in front of them. The mirror trick allows you to gather perfect intelligence. By mimicking an enemy's speech patterns or their social mask, you gain access to their inner sanctum. They will tell you things they wouldn't tell their own mother because they feel a subconscious bond of sameness. Machiavelli understood that to outplay your enemies, you must first become a ghost of their own ego. He believed that the first method for estimating a ruler's intelligence is to look at the people he keeps in his orbit. He wrote in The Prince, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. In your life, the men around you include the enemies you are currently auditing. By using the law of the mirror, you are essentially vetting their intelligence. If they believe your reflection is the real you, they are level 1 thinkers, low-status players who are easily manipulated by their own vanity." I saw a comment from a user named Zane from Lahore that perfectly captures this. He wrote, "I had a business partner who was always trying to status shame me. Instead of fighting back, I started mirroring his arrogance. I'd agree with his brilliant ideas and repeat his favorite catchphrases. He got so comfortable feeling like the alpha that he started ignoring the fine print in our contracts. He thought I was his biggest fan. By the time I performed this sovereign pivot and took over the majority share, he was still talking about how much he taught me. Vanity is the ultimate blindfold. Zane realized that the person who needs the spotlight is the easiest to trap in the dark. The fourth law is the strategic retreat of the ego. This is the art of losing the battle to win the war. The nice guy has a fragile ego. He needs to be right now. He needs to win the argument at the dinner table or get the last word in the group chat. But Machiavelli knew that winning a petty argument is a low-status move that only alerts the enemy to your strength. The sovereign is willing to look weak to become strong. You purposefully allow your enemy to win a small, public interaction. You let them correct you or one-up you. Why? Because it inflates their shadow. It makes them arrogant and overconfident. They start to see you as average, as someone who is no longer a threat. This is the dark period of your strategy. While they're celebrating their victory, you are quietly consolidating your share of glory in the background. Machiavelli understood that the world is in a constant state of flux. He saw that most people are paralyzed by their own status anxiety. But the man who can change his conduct to match the requirements of the moment is the one who remains immovable. He wrote, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." The conduct required today is the induced paranoia. Once you have established your unshakable aura, you can outplay your enemies by simply doing nothing. You plant a seed of doubt through strategic ambiguity. You mention a new project or a powerful connection in a vague, passing way, and then you refuse to elaborate. You let their own mind do the work for you. Because they already fear your silence, they will fill the gap with their worst nightmares. This is the Machiavellian whisper. You speak soft, but the weight of your internal ice is making them question their own perimeter. You are training your enemies to realize that you are always one move ahead, even when you aren't moving at all. This mental dominance is more powerful than any physical weapon because it attacks the enemy's will to compete. Another user, Danish, shared a comment that hits the heart of the strategic retreat. I used to be so competitive in group settings, always trying to show off my knowledge of trading and RSI indicators. I thought I was building an aura, but I realized I was just making myself a target for everyone's envy. Now I play the dummy. I act like I'm just getting lucky with my trades. My relatives think I'm just fortunate, so they don't try to sabotage me or ask for money. Meanwhile, I'm building a 7-figure portfolio in total silence. My weakness is the best security system I ever bought. Danish is learning that privacy is a force multiplier for the ambitious. Think about the nice guy habit of defensiveness. When someone accuses you of something, you rush to prove your innocence. You give them your data, your secrets, and your time. But Machiavelli knew that innocence is not a shield, it's an opening. The sovereign doesn't defend, he questions. He uses the auditor's inquiry. If someone says, "You're being very secretive lately," you don't explain your strategy. You look at them with a sovereign eye and say, "That's a very specific observation. Why is my privacy so interesting to you right now?" See what happened? You didn't give them information, you gave them a reflection. You turned the inducement back onto them. You are no longer the defendant in their court. You are the judge in yours. The fifth law is the information vacuum. Most men stay average because they feel the need to fill every silence with noise. They want to be the fun guy or the smart guy. But Machiavelli knew that the one who speaks the least is the one who hears the most. He saw that human beings are biologically programmed to be uncomfortable with silence. If you stay silent long enough in a conversation, the other person will start talking to fill the gap. They will reveal their secrets, their insecurities, and their true feelings about you. This is the auditor's silence. You don't ask questions, you just listen with internal ice. You are honoring your title as a man of high ambition by realizing that your presence is enough. You don't need to perform for the room. You've been reshaped by these laws, not just informed. You're starting to see the cold reality behind the social masks. You're realizing that your kindness was often just a lack of gall, and your transparency was just a lack of vault. But we're not done. We have two more laws to cover, the most ruthless ones of all. We're going to talk about the law of the sovereign infiltrator and the parasitic debt. These are the moves that don't just win the argument. They ensure the enemy never has the resources to fight you again. You have endured the silence of the vacuum and the psychological traps of the mirror. You've learned that your internal ice is the fortress that protects your mission, and your strategic mystery is the only shield against the envy of the mediocre. But now we arrive at the final threshold, the moment where these laws stop being tactics and start being your permanent state of existence. This is the sovereign coronation. Most men fail here because they find the isolation of the heights too cold. After they win, they immediately run back to the sheep pen to show off. They want the applause of the very people they just outplayed. But Machiavelli knew that the moment you seek validation for your power, you have already handed your crown back to the crowd. This final part is about becoming the standard. We move into the sixth law, the law of the sovereign infiltrator. Most men stay average because they think power means being the loudest, most aggressive person in the room. They walk in with their chest out, trying to alpha everyone. But Machiavelli knew that the most effective strike is the one that comes from a direction the enemy didn't even know existed. To be an infiltrator means to enter a room, a company, or a social circle and functionally disappear. You act like you belong. You act like you are one of them. You use their language, you laugh at their jokes, and you adopt their vibration. But internally, you are a black box. You are gathering the blueprint of the entire dynamic while everyone else is too busy performing for you. I saw a comment from a user named Bilal that perfectly captures this ghost dynamic. He wrote, "I spent 6 months in a high-ticket sales office in Lahore acting like I was just a struggling beginner. I asked everyone for advice, I stayed late to learn, and I acted like I was barely hitting my targets. In reality, I was studying their entire client list, their pitch scripts, and their pricing loopholes. They thought I was a harmless utility man. The day I quit, I'd already built my own agency with their top 3 clients. They didn't even have a chance to sabotage me because they didn't see me as a competitor until the crown was already on my head. Invisibility is a superpower." Bilal realized that underestimation is the greatest gift an enemy can give you. Machiavelli understood that your path to the top is a sacred mission that requires you to take full responsibility for your results. He wrote, "God is not willing to do everything, and thus take away our free will and that share of glory which belongs to us. Your share of glory is the construction of a life where you are the only architect. By being an infiltrator, you are reclaiming your free will from the social program. You are training your nervous system to realize that you are safe even when you are behind enemy lines. While the nice guy is terrified of being different, the sovereign welcomes the dark period because he knows it is where his merit reaches its peak. This leads us to the seventh and most ruthless law, the parasitic debt. Machiavelli knew that human beings are biologically programmed to feel a sense of obligation when they receive a gift or a favor. The sovereign uses this virtue as a leash. To outplay an enemy mentally, you give them exactly what they think they want. You give them a favor that they didn't earn or a piece of help that puts them in your debt. On the surface, you look like the better man, the nice guy who is rising above the conflict. But in the theater of power, you have just placed a gilded cage around their ambition. By accepting your favor, the enemy has implicitly acknowledged your superiority. They are now indebted to you. If they try to move against you later, they will feel the internal friction of their own guilt. If they speak against you, they look like the ingrate to the rest of the circle. You have effectively paralyzed their ability to be an enemy. I saw a comment from a user named Hamza that hits the heart of this gilded bait. He wrote, "I had a rival in my trading group who was always trying to one-up my price action analysis. Instead of arguing, I gifted him a high-end course and shared one of my profitable RSI settings as a favor. He was stunned. He had to thank me in front of everyone. From that moment on, he couldn't say a single bad word about my strategy. He felt like he owed me his progress. He stopped competing and started consulting me on every move. I didn't lose a rival. I gained a servant. And the best part? The group saw me as the leader who develops others. I won the status and the person. Hamza discovered that generosity is the ultimate form of containment. Machiavelli knew that it isn't enough to just be lucky. You must be prepared through discipline. He believed that nature creates few men who are brave. Only industry and training make many. Your industry is the strategic application of these laws. You speak soft, but the weight of your iron integrity is making it clear that you are the architect of your own fate. You have moved through the shadows, you have mastered the mirror, and you have built the parasitic debt. Now, we arrive at the integration of the legend. This is where you decide that your internal ice is no longer a trick, but your soul. You have undergone a psychological exorcism. You have removed the need for outside approval, and now you must heal the need that made you a nice guy in the first place. Think about your current internal audit. Who are you still trying to prove something to? If you are still thinking about your enemies, you haven't outplayed them yet. You are still a participant in their game. To win the final war, you must perform the mental coup. You must decide that their existence is a detail in your empire, not a focus of your life. You are honoring your title as a man of high potential by reaching for the transcendence of the legend. You no longer need to hustle for respect. Your presence is the currency. Machiavelli saw that when the will is absolute, the obstacles disappear. He wrote, "Where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great." You've been reshaped, not inspired, not motivated. Rebuilt from the inside out. You killed self-doubt, not with affirmations, but with action. You didn't wait to feel ready. You moved, you acted, and you learned that power doesn't belong to the perfect. It belongs to the bold. You took rejection and turned it into fuel. No more chasing approval. Now you let people feel the cost of losing you. You became scarce, strategic, silent, and they noticed. You stopped entering rooms to be accepted. Now you own them through presence, posture, and precision. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak as if no one can afford to disagree. And above all, you rewired your identity. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer easily moved. You've become unreachable, emotionally untouchable. They can't provoke you. They can't tempt you. They can't shake you because you belong to no one now. And that makes you unforgettable. That's what creates a legend. Not noise, not fame, powerful silence, cold clarity, ruthless consistency. You don't need to announce your transformation. They'll feel it in your walk, in your tone, in your absence. You become the man people observe quietly. The one who used to chase, now being chased. The one who used to ask, now deciding. The one who no longer needs approval because he became the standard. So no, this wasn't just about confidence. This was about dominance, mental, emotional, psychological. You're not here to fit in. You are here to move the pieces, to bend the room, to haunt their memory, even in silence. Because legends don't beg, they don't explain. They exist, and the world reshapes around them. Final command. Like, share, and subscribe, etc. to the video if you're done being the nice guy and you're ready to be the sovereign. Share this with one man who is still playing by the old rules and join the ranks of the immovable. The social game is over. It's time to start the conquest. Are you ready to take your seat? Would you like me to develop a Machiavellian daily audit? A set of 3 high-status prompts you can use every morning to ensure your internal ice is set and you are operating from the sovereign frequency before you step into the world?